Hi, it's Wayne from How to Fish. I'm going to do a bit of float fishing today from a pier. I'll show you how I set the float up, how I attract the fish and catch them, so you can catch yourself a meal next time you go pier fishing. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to put this float in, and I want to get it down towards the bottom because that's where most of the fish are going to be. So I got this going to be right on the bottom. So I've just pulled that float up to the top, so I got plenty of distance there. I'll put that straight down. Now the setup that I'm using is just a standard float, and what I've got is I've got two pieces of rubber on it so it holds the line against the float, some split shot, and then that goes down to what I've tied on here is some lightweight fluorocarbon line so that it's absolutely invisible to the fish, and then a very small hook. Now I'm just going to put some burley pellets over the top and a bit of my powder burley in there as well. Okay, so I'm going to hold the float in position. I'm going to try and not let it move too much so it can be seen. Okay, and you can see the mullet. So that's gone under, and there we go. Oh, and he got off. Okay, bit hard to lift out with this soft rod. A few minutes later, I hooked into something else, and all it was is good presentation, getting some attraction into the water, and then the fish will be around. This little salmon really gave a good account of itself, took that float right under, and gave me a bit of a fight. That was great. A week ago, I was fishing in the sun and it was really, really nice. This week, the only time I had available was when the weather was like this, but since I was able to go fishing, I was going to. It really helps a lot if you can get the burley very, very close to your float. So here I was trying to throw it directly over the top so that the float and the burley were in the same position. Obviously what happens then is that as that burley sinks down towards the bottom, it'll pass your bait. The fish will be picking up little bits of burley. And then what they do, they find your bait there, which seems to be a freebie, and they take that under. Here, fish did exactly the same. This little salmon fell to that little trick, and I was getting these bites all the way through the session. Even though we're only dealing with small fish here, the bites can be quite ferocious. Here, the float is just moving a little bit with the current, but as soon as you get a bite, it can rapidly take that under, which it did here. Using a light rod and sensitive gear like line, small hooks, you can really get a sense of a fighting fish. So it's great fun doing that, as well as actually getting a few fish in. These little fish, there was a combination of mullet and salmon biting on the day, and I must admit, it was just fairly constant. Even though I lost or missed a lot of baits, I was still getting reasonable sized mullet here, and it's really what I came for. Anybody can do this. You can throw the burley in by hand, but I like to actually use this little spoon. What it does is that it's got a long handle, allows you to actually throw out a fairly sloppy or wet burley, and it's really quite accurate. And what's happening is that is just floating down under my float, and of course the fish are responding. If you can get burley continuously going in, you will get the fish coming through. Having the float is a great indicator for doing this. These salmon give a fight out of all proportion to their size, and these were coming fairly steadily. Even though the weather was rotten, I was having a bit of fun with the fish. Float has just gone under. Whoops. What have I got here? All right. Hey, little salmon. Now the float I'm using is small, and the reason being that I want it to be almost neutral buoyancy so that the fish don't feel anything at all. So when they take the bait, it just feels normal. It feels like a piece of burley in the water, but it's got a hook in it. And here I was able to catch a mullet just because they were following the burley trail up, and it was so well presented on that float. And you can catch reasonable sized mullet on these piers. They're big enough to make a meal out of if you get a few, and have some fun doing it. If you like a copy of my free ebook, 5 Secrets to Catching More Fish, even if you've never fished before, then click the link below in the description.